should probably turn off the disconnect my Wi-Fi.
These are the papers. She's off the comic again. So, yeah, that's what they said is. Every time she comes, she comes back and forth. She has no fear of being aggressive.
Oh yeah, that's what I was. You're running the show today? I see you with Mike.
He's recording it today.
Of course, I see.
Maybe I'll do that every meeting. I'll have something to see different on my that I wear. Like last time it was all pink. This time I got couplings. We'll do something different next time. See if I can change it. It'll be like Trader Joe's when you go out for the monkey. Alright! Hello everybody! Let's get started. I guess, should we go ahead and actually first please disconnect from the Wi-Fi. Silence your cell phone, which I just did, and do not block the camera. And then so Nancy, would you like to?
Yeah, we wanted to take the time to thank you all for participating in today's potluck, which, as you guys noticed, it was a total success. We have a lot of food, so thank you for just pouring your love into every dish that you brought today. We also have some takeaway boxes, so you can pack to go home. But most importantly, we just wanted to thank you for showing up, bringing just something to share, and just coming with an awesome energy. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else full? Because I am stuck. All right, we'll just dive right in. Anyone got any property pitches? Oh, let's start over with Amy.
All right. I pitched this a couple weeks ago. I have an off-market listing in Burlingame.
Why are you doing that?
I'm a buyer. We're trying to get another next week. If you don't know Burlingame, it's in North Park, just literally west of 30th, south of University. This is the neighborhood with the pink sidewalks and the cute little old-fashioned lampposts, you guys. If you have any buyers that want historic neighborhood, community, this is the property for them. It is a gorgeous home. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. We have it listed at 1.845. She's a numbers gal. 1 and 8 is 9, 4 and 5 is 9, all that, right? It's a 3-2, just shy of 2,000 feet, historical designation, which means your property taxes are not the current rate property tax. They've been in this house since the early 90s. The property tax is like $3,000 a year, like that. So that Mills Act transfers to you. There's a ton of benefits to it. We are looking to show it hopefully early next week. If you have a buyer, please reach out to me and we will schedule a showing.
Awesome. Thanks, Amy. John, what you got?
I don't have one in Burlingame. So, Lemon Grove, South Burlingame. Coming on the market tomorrow. It's a 3-bed, 2.5 bath, 1,500 square feet. Not super recently remodeled, but it's built in 1990 and has been remodeled since then. So decently updated. Will be at $750.
Sweet. Sounds like a good price.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I also have a listing in South Burlingame coming up in Lemon Grove. Mine is priced right at $649.
That is nice. Does it have sidewalks?
Sidewalk. It's actually off a little bit of a road down.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
But anyway, this is actually a really good one for maybe a first-time buyer, or it's probably slightly too nice for an investor, but I know the investors are gonna come, so bring your investors. But this is a 3-2, it's got a bonus area and another one, so it's really probably more like 1,800 square feet. Does not have a garage is converted, but it's got a really nice sized yard, and it does have a bit of a I also have one coming up this week in Bay Ho. This one is a 4-bedroom, 3-bath. It's like 2,300 square feet. That one's going to be at 1.8. And then one coming up in 2 weeks in PB. That one's going to be on Loring. That will be at 1.85. That's a 3-2. It's remodeled.
Is that
some
in Pacifica?
parts. No, it's a detached house in on Loring.
Yeah, in PV, that part of that's in Pacific.
No, this is like.
Well, it could be
I'm
Dawes,
working on the-
Dawes, Caspar, Felspar.
And then I have another one coming up in Mission Valley. It's a 2-2. That one isn't going to be up for a few weeks, so I'll pitch that once we get closer. And then I have one more coming up next week up in Escondido. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. It's about 1,500 square feet, and that one's going to be at 769. It's kind of the really far part of Escondido that's more almost like Valley Center, but it's technically Escondido. So if you have a buyer looking up there, that's a good price, and it's a cute place. So
Is that 5? I think, Matt, you can stay on your ROI.
Oh, Bridget! Oh, I didn't see you there.
Oh my God, that's great.
Wow,
Great,
awesome.
congratulations.
For all you folks going to the doctor for checkups, if you hear of your doctor or doctor groups needing a new or growing environment, we have a medical office space coming up in Tierra Santa, 4,700 feet, 2-story, with a 22-year tenant on the top level. An early user would be ideal for that. It'll be hitting the market next week at $4 million.
Great. Name, Claudia?
3503 Quimby Street, Point Loma, just off of Chatsworth. 4-bedroom, 3-bath, a little over 2,000 square feet, plus a den, great outdoor space. We are currently in escrow on a condo downtown, so if you'd like to get an offer, its price value range is 1.92 to 1.950. Bring me an offer and I'll see what I can do. Oh, and Doug is holding it open Sunday from 1 to 4.
Awesome. And Judy.
My darling little 1-bedroom, 1-bath, East Burlington. It's actually in Cherokee, which is right next door. It's not far. Anyway, I just lowered the price. Oh my God, it's $439.9. Come on, find me a buyer. It's going to be open this weekend if I can find a host for Saturday. I do have Amy for Sunday. So if somebody wants to host, let me know. Okay, it's 612 square feet. The HOA is only $286. Oh my God. And it's got designated parking right next to the unit, off street parking, and a fiber optic Hi-Fi and laundry in the unit. This is the cutest thing. It's ready to go. It's not good for investors because you no point putting any money in it. But somebody wants to buy something that's very affordable and central, please tell me about it. I need a buyer. I need to move this person to another property. Come on.
All right, Ashley, what do you got?
Just got a text from an agent out of Sherman Oaks named Mike Farzad. He actually does the thing that I don't like, which is take listings down here. He's got a 4-bedroom, 2.5-bath, 2,600 square foot house down in Chula Vista at 1414 Antioch. It's not on the market yet. It'll be on the market Thursday. So if you have any buyers, it's just under 1.5.
All right, thank you.
So I'm going to be the least expensive place in the room. It's a 55-plus community up in Oceanside. The manufactured home is built in 1978, so there's no property tax, just a $59 annual registration fee, and it's going for $374,500. It's a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,248 square feet. Brand new roof, redone, tubs and showers replaced. And it's right on the lake. It's in our favorite park up there. It's got all these green belts. It's got 8 lakes. This one's on one of the lakes. The community is really nice, welcoming the gals in the office, you know, dealing with HOA and property management. Like I often, like 2 days ago, was like in there and I said, have I told you how much I love you? Wow. Like they were so helpful and informative, and even today, this morning, she called and said, hey, someone's looking at a brand new listing, you know, 247. And I'm like, oh, please, can you tell her about 120, you know? So it's up in Oceanside, 92058. I'll put it up on the inner office one. It's a great place. We went pending, it fell out. It was contingent on people selling a place up in Hemet that fell through, and so we're just back at it, trying again. So anyway, great property.
Thank you. Oh, Lisa, go ahead.
Okay, so flip opportunity on the border. It's more the Sunset Cliffs side of Catalina Boulevard. Probably going to be around 1.2. I'm getting the sign off from the probate attorney today, and it's full of stuff. And it's a package deal. So yeah, there's disabled car, 3 disabled cars on the property. The property, it's absolutely full of stuff. It's a 3-2, 1319 square feet on a 5,400 square foot lot. Like I said, it's probably going to be around 1-2. I'm not going to give out the address yet because I got the attorney over there today, and we may just keep it off market. But if somebody is interested, let me know. And then I want to pitch something else. We just did a price reduction on my Rancho Bernardo from 135 to 1298. If anybody wants to, it's detached 3-2 on a really nice cul-de-sac. If anybody wants to hold it open this weekend, please reach out.
Awesome, thank you. That's about all we got time for. I know Broker Bob's got a lot to talk about today, so we're going to continue on. But man, I have a lot to talk about with all that stuff, but I'm going to have to wait till next meeting. That's amazing. All right, obviously our leadership team, we got Mondays with Mark. Really encourage you guys to go. Obviously all things tech by Broker Bob and our Daily Spark. I encourage you guys all to attend. Also on April 30th, 3 to 4 p.m., Judy's going to be putting on a Working with Seniors. I encourage you to come to that.
It's today.
Oh, sorry, it's today's 30th. It's today. Not tomorrow. Not to be confused with any other day. So today, stick around for that. And then escrow. Let's go. Come on down. I'll keep this next to you.
These are the people. You love them. You work with them. Great. Next. Congratulations, Metro. Y'all are 91% of our open escrows for, should I talk to this?
Yes,
91%. Thank you. Just for background, y'all are typically about 50% of the business that we have. Y'all are crushing May already, and it's not even May. It will be tomorrow. It's going to be May. I didn't do the joke, I promise. Spotlights, Deb and Dan, hi rock stars. We would like to congratulate on the 3 escrows that you opened. Know Dan and Deb, they run business here in San Diego, but they also have a business out in Palm Springs. So if you ever have referrals, there's your go-to. Congratulations, Nikki Francis. Congratulations, Nikki closed yesterday. We are super thrilled to work with Nikki Francis. Congratulations. Last thing, I want to bring you guys an idea because I know you all are very busy with everything. If you are not very busy with 5 or 6 listings, and you want 5 or 6 listings, this is a great idea to do a spring declutter donate drive. All you have to do, wherever you live or wherever you're farming and doing business, just say that you're going to host that day to help. Come by, have an idea of how to help, and then just know where you're going to drop things. If you have a charity to partner with, I know Bridget has worked with Salvation Army before. If you don't have a company, you can also just drop it off at Goodwill. But just have a plan for that stuff. This is a great way to get in front of people. And then that way you can offer, if anybody wants, you can give them a free home prep checklist if they're considering selling any time in the next year. And then if they do that, call us and get a net sheet. Yeah.
I just had to take a minute because we didn't need bucket fills that I have been with the same escrow company for 10 years, and it was like pulling teeth to get you to change anything. I moved over to Escrow Partners on this transaction, which was a big one for me because it was not only a referral from a commercial agent, but it was a family member of theirs, and you guys did a bang-up job. Thank you very much, and the whole communication was fantastic.
Thank you for saying that. We appreciate working with you.
That microphone's not working, by the way, so you can put your hand
It's
down.
It's for them, it's for everybody. Thank you. We appreciate that. I think that's all I have.
All right, without further ado, Broker Bob, come on down.
Thank you.
Broccoli.
Who had some of the chili? You did? Nobody else?
We went. It was delicious. Yeah.
Did you eat any of the hard-boiled eggs with them?
Oh
We're staying away from you. If you did.
Oh my God.
All right. Welcome everybody. I'm glad you guys are here. I appreciate your time showing up. We do have a lot to talk about, and hopefully we'll get through in the first 45 minutes. This will be a very interactive session today because I'm sure you guys are all going to want to ask some questions as well too. We're going to cover the new NAR change in the clear cooperation policy. I'll explain what that is a little bit so you'll understand what that is. And we'll have an in-depth discussion about these close coming soon quotes from other brokers. So you can have an understanding on that. CAR put out a new advisory on the do's and don'ts at open houses, post NAR settlement in AB 2992. We won't really talk too much about that other than the advisory is very lengthy about what you can do and what you can't do at an open house. We're going to talk about contingency removal and contingencies in the non-contingent offer advisory, and then non-refundable deposits transactions. Again, this is a thorn in my side, is the RLAS and the SIP whenever you have a seller staying in a property after close of escrow and you consummate one of these documents. 9 times out of 10, I get a phone call from an agent. The seller did this when they moved out. So I made up a new advisory for that, and sign call showing things to Bridget. This is on the agenda if we get to that. She had this happen in the last few months. And then also MLS rules and unauthorized use of photos or wrong use of your MLS photos. I've had, believe it or not, 5 agents in the past 4 weeks get an MLS violation for using the wrong photo on the MLS. So, not your fault, but you just need to know all the rules. Okay. Delayed marketing. So let me give you a little bit of history. Who is not aware of what CCP is? Just raise your hand. Good. Okay, good. So let me give you a little bit of history about what it is. It came out in 2019, and the concept behind the CCP was NAR put a rule in place to tell brokers, agents, when they take a listing, that they really wanted fair competition with that listing. The idea was in a lower inventory market, what they had seen was a lot of agents wouldn't put a property on the MLS, and then it would go on the MLS and it'd be an escrow, and then they would come to find out that it was double-ended by that agent. So NAR came into this role in 2019 with CCP. One of the biggest thorn in my sides to have to deal with, because you all call me, how do I do this so that I stay out of trouble? Or you call me after you got in trouble, what did I do wrong that got me in trouble? So we'll review a little bit of that. Let me get some more up here. So the idea behind the clear cooperation policy that if you take a listing with us as a member of NAR and you start marketing that listing as either coming soon or coming for sale in any platform. So if you put it on social media, if you put a sign in the yard, if you have a flyer distributed in the neighborhood, if you have an email that goes out to a database, you have 1 day to get that listing in the MLS. Meaning, get it active on the MLS within 24 hours. Does everybody understand that?
Yeah.
So the idea behind that, of course, was transparency and in fairness and cooperation to allow other agents and buyers in the community to see that listing. Now, why would you want to have a listing you take be advertised and marketed to the broader audience?
Get more money.
Get more. More competition means more money.
More competition could mean potentially more money for the owner, correct. Make more money for the owner, correct. Get more eyeballs on a property, because the more eyeballs on the property, the more people will see it and the more people that see it will want to make an offer on the property if it fits what they're looking for. So, without violating antitrust, I can talk about this in this room. So there is a company out there that has been trying to break this clear cooperation policy with NAR. They hate it. You're all aware of the company. It starts with a C, and they've created this, what they call a closed network of coming soon, that their buyers could go in, they have to register on their site, and they can see any property that's coming soon that is not on the MLS. It's only in their private network. Now, a number of you guys in the past few months have said to me, why can't we do that? Why can't we do that? Well, we do. We have our own internal list because we're a small independent broker with brokerage with one broker. Compass is a nationwide brokerage, so they can have a network like that because they're one company. So, and then someone asked, well, why can't we do that with all the Keller Williams offices in the county? Well, we can't do that because they're individually owned offices, have a different brokerage. So that's why we can't do that.
Is that conversation even out there at all, that some of the KW brokerages might cooperate for something like that?
Well, we can't. We can't put that rule in place because we're all individually owned with separate brokerages. And because of that, we can't go out and have this network with just Keller Williams.
Well, and actually, you had some stuff that you were...
Yeah, well, that's the case. If we co-listed, my idea was we could co-list things, but that would have.
But also, isn't this whole thing with Compass, like, coming up, like...
Oh, no, it's under humongous scrutiny.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
So let's explain now what's going on in the industry now. You may have seen in the news lately that Zillow announced if you do not have a coming soon status with your listing and market it to the general public, not only did Zillow do this, but Redfin did it as well. We're not going to allow this on our website. So what does that mean?
How do they know though?
Because they have access to the MLS, then they'll see that it's not on there. And then even if they decide to put it on the MLS at a later date, they're not going to expose it through their website. So you see the war that's going on
They're
between...
saying that it has to have a coming soon status before it goes active?
If you are basically what they're saying, if you're a Compass agent and you took a coming soon and you put it on their closed network, and now you want to put it on ours, you're not going to be able to, and it's not going to be IDX out to the rest of it. So what does that do? That just cut off all those buyers that could see it.
I had several coaching calls yesterday with agents in Milwaukee, and in Milwaukee, Zillow has come through and said, we are actually combing the social media profiles of agents to see what they're posting, and if they're posting it there, we're not gonna allow it on Zillow.
Doesn't that harm Zillow as well?
What defines the property? Is it basically
What are
like
they getting?
the address for a picture, but if you say like 3-bedroom in Chula Vista?
Status coming soon.
I'm not sure of your question, Benny.
Well, for the clear cooperation, right? What's required of the marketing piece that now has to be?
You're saying like it doesn't have a photo and address.
Yeah, well, you can't define exactly what the property is.
Or you're saying you're trying to pre-market it coming soon, but you don't really want to give out the information.
You don't give out the specific
I would be very
address.
loose about it. I have a potential seller in this area, price around here, around this square footage, and this many bedrooms.
So basically, it can't be something directly specific. So it can't be a front
specific
picture
at all.
It can't be basically an address.
Yeah, and I take these calls all the time from you guys to make sure you understand these rules so you don't get snagged. Yes.
Yes, me.
Yes, you're.
So I go to these pitch sessions and they have that moment where they talk about coming soon or let's say off market properties, but they don't call them like that. And they let people pitch without telling the address, and they tell the area, price if it's there, and maybe how many bedrooms, but not the address.
Yeah.
So what if Keller Williams would have once a month, all the Keller Williams?
I'm not going to discuss what we can do.
No,
what I want to discuss today is why this is all happening.
So
the what ifs, I can't give you an answer about what we can do, but I'm going to explain what the new NAR rule is. to help you understand the delayed marketing. Because what's going to happen is you're going to have to understand it to explain it to your seller so that they get it. So if they understand it, then you'll hopefully will win the listing because you'll know exactly how to pitch it as to why what we're doing is a much better platform for the seller that wants
This
to
is
sell.
important, guys. I just lost a listing.
Yeah, I got
This
one
reason,
for Compass the other day, a session, exclusive listing, guys shared it with me.
So can you click on that, Ari, please? Yeah. So this rule again came out a couple weeks ago with NAR. They voted on it. And on the statewide broker call, we had the attorney for NAR on the call to explain it to all of us brokers in the state of how this occurs now and will be rolled out. And that what the new rule, what happens is the MLSs individually will come out with the rules on how they monitor it. So remember, there's two MLSs in San Diego. It's the SDMLS and CRMLS. They will both come out with their own rules about what FAQ they're going to come up with on how they guide. We don't have them yet, but I can show you the three options that will happen. The first option is it's a regular MLS listing, no delay. You put it in the MLS, boom, it's ready to go. You show it, and it's out to the regular public. The second one is an office exclusive. That's the one where we have our closed network. That's the one where Compass will fit into. It goes into our closed network. It doesn't go out to the MLS. It doesn't go out to the feed. Only the listing firm can market it during this time. Can't be marketed by the listing agent. Oh, I'm sorry. It goes into the MLS right away, but it isn't marketed publicly, meaning it does not go out to Zillow, Redfin, Homes.com, Realtor.com. It won't be IDX out to those sites. Or it can be shown to buyers by agents using the MLS. So all the agents that belong to the MLS will see it. The general public won't. Only the listing firm can market it during this time, meaning you guys, as you're the agent, you can market the listing. And it requires the seller to sign the permission to delay public exposure. So with this, the delayed marketing, basically it's saying, you can put it on the MLS, but it's not going out to the general public. Does that make sense?
Is that the coming soon status?
Well, it's kind of like what their answer is to the coming soon. The coming soon used to be IDX'd out. But they hope that this delayed marketing will answer to the concerns of some of these other companies. Like, it's not just Compass, there's another...
EXP.
Well, not just EXP, there's another company, the agency is fighting this really seriously as well too. The agency is located up in LA.
So is the delayed marketing like the coming soon used to be?
Mm-hmm.
Where?
Yeah.
Is it gonna, when do we think that's gonna go into play?
September 30th, the MLSs are supposed to have the rules come into play about how to do this. And the length of the delay that will be in the MLS is going to be set by the MLS. I don't know. Right now, currently, the coming soon status is set to 21 days. They could probably do the same amount.
Since it can be shown by agencies in the MLS, can we sell it before the end of the delay?
Yes. Yes, you can. Well,
We
I
can
want to
see the
say,
negotiated
I want to say yes, you can, but we'll also wait for the MLSs to come up. But I'm assuming yes, you might be able to sell it during that period. I'm sorry, I skipped over the office exclusive. Let me go back to that one. Only shared inside our brokerage, not shown on the MLS or public sites. Can't put a yard sign or post on social media. Meant for sellers only who want privacy, and requires a signed seller disclosure form. So this number 4, meant for sellers who want privacy. Who would that be? It would be like if you have a high-end listing and that seller maybe is a rock star or an actor, they don't really want it exposed to the public.
Or if you have tenants in place with children.
That too. Yeah.
I know this is all down the road. The delayed marketing listing, you know how the time frame will be defined? Will still be...
As it says, it will be set by the local MLS.
No, I understand that, but I'm talking about how you have basically when the contract is signed and when it was on the market. You know how we have the 2 dates?
Mm-hmm.
Do we know that or not?
Nope. I don't have the rules put out by them yet. Time will tell. So does that give you an understanding about the history? Now, if you were to sit down with a seller and explain to them why putting it into we call them VOWs, virtual office website, basically where they only share within that brokerage, are you comfortable enough to be able to explain that to a seller about how that is not beneficial for them? Okay.
Robert,
Yes.
I have a question.
Yeah.
When it says it can be marketed by the listing agent, is that the listing agent only, or is it the listing brokerage?
The brokerage.
Okay, so then if we're able to market that, can't we market that to the general public then? Because does that kind of defeat the purpose?
Well, I'll wait for the FAQ for more clarity on it, but yeah. Any more questions on it?
Oh, yeah. So can they have showings in the delayed marketing? Can they have showings for open houses?
Yes, it can be shown to buyers by agents using the MLS.
So they can have showings and they can.
Can be shown to buyers by agents using the MLS. That means everybody in the MLS can show that property. Because you guys are the only ones that can see it. The general public isn't seeing it on the platforms like Zillow and
It's a
Redfin.
great way to lock down buyers.
So are you all getting that part? Okay.
So wait, sorry, just on that top line, because I think I misunderstood. So
Still
it's
got
not
five for
syncing
Pregnancy 5.
13 months later. It's when you say it isn't marketed publicly, if you have an MLS search going to your buyers,
They won't see it.
They won't see it. It'll be
Yeah.
a setting in there that we can,
You're
a button we
it's-
can check.
that search only goes to you. It doesn't go, the one that's going to them is a separate feed. It's coming
Yeah.
from an IDX feed.
Oh,
It's
got
not
it.
being
Okay.
IDX.
Got it. That makes more sense. Okay. Thank you.
So when we use the collaboration center through the MLS, that's actually using the IDX, not the MLS?
I am assuming yes, but don't quote me on it. We will see when this all kicks in September 30th.
Because right now they can see it coming soon.
Yes, coming soon. They can see.
They can see that, but they might not be able to see that.
Yes.
Okay.
So question, you have a potential coming soon in Paradise Hills in a 4-bedroom, 3-bath. It's not in the MLS. Message me for details. Can you put that on Facebook?
Yes.
Yes.
No.
I'm not talking about this room, I'm talking about today.
Yes, today, no.
The answer is no, you can't. No, you can't, because if you did, what would you have to do? Within 1 day. And then I call you on it. So here's my duty as broker too, because the reason this came up too is we met with the real estate commissioner last Friday. And this specific question came up. Our responsibility as brokers to supervise. Because that's, if we get in trouble, it's basically me, and I get this thing called failure to supervise. And I've gotten hit twice this year because of it. And so what I'm doing now, if I see it on a social media post and I know that it's incorrect, I will cut and paste it to you and I will send it to you to say, please remove this, this is violating CCP. Don't take offense. Don't get mad at me. Don't say Broker Bob is mean. What I'm doing is, you know how you guys are doing your communication log in case you get sued?
Yeah.
I'm doing my communication log so I can show the DRE investigator I did not fail to supervise. They just didn't know the rules and I clarified the rules. That one question was specifically asked and talked in great length on our statewide broker call because us as brokers were like, well, we can't go through every social media post with all of our agents. That's just a lot. What is, they call it reasonable. So reasonable is like, and they gave us no definition, but they don't want to fine us. They just want to make sure we're reasonably taking care of it. So moving forward, any other time you get an email from me, it's my communication log. Please, I want you to understand, I'm not condemning you. I'm just CYA and me. Okay? Because then I can show if someone gets in trouble, no, I supervised them. Okay? So please just take it that way. I got a lot on my plate like you do, and I'm not gonna worried about putting niceties in an email just to make it sound nice, okay?
It's not a new rule either. It's been in place for quite a while now.
Well, the question I get, well, I see other agents do it, and my nice response back to this agent was, I don't care what other agents are doing. I'm telling you as my broker and duty to supervise you, this is the rule. Other agents are doing it. Why?
They don't have you.
They don't have me, and they don't know the rules. Okay? Can you open up the next?
Objection handle?
Oh, yeah, go to the other one. Back to the other one, and then scroll down. Sorry. So, I even put an FAQ to make it simple for you guys. Can I show a delayed listing to a property to a buyer? Yes. If you're in the MLS, you can schedule a showing. Can I post a delayed listing on social media? Yes. But only the listing firm can market it during the delay. Meaning us, you can market it during the delay. What if the seller changes their mind? They can switch from an office exclusive to delayed or to a full MLS anytime. What if I talk to another agent about the listing? One-on-one combos are okay, but multiple agents equal public marketing and might trigger MLS rules and require making the property active in the MLS within 24 hours.
So not on Caravan.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's on Caravan, as long as you put it active in 24 hours.
So what you guys must do, know the 3 listing options, know how to explain them clearly to your seller, because you're going to get a copy of this today once I send this all out via email, and you're going to download it and you're going to study it and read it. And you're going to get the right disclosure sign, and you're going to follow the MLS rules in your broker's policy.
Absolutely.
Yes. Okay, now go to the, and keeping Ariana awake. She's over there yawning. So you guys know that I used to teach scripts. We now call them language patterns in the office. Well, I have a clear-cut method of overcoming any objection. So I have put an objection handler together for you, and it's a 4-step process. And if you follow this process, I guarantee you, you will overcome this objection of, well, they do it at Compass. Why can't we do it here? You will overcome the objection. Primarily, the first step, every time why do people object? They don't have enough information, okay? The first step in an NLP pattern, you want to approve their objection. I completely appreciate where you're coming from. Matter of fact, if I was in your shoes, I'd do the exact same thing and ask the same question. You got to show empathy. It shows that you're getting what they're saying. And then the next step, we want to isolate that objection. Is there anything else? So other than this today, is there anything else that would prevent you from moving forward with me today so I can get your home listed, so we can get you to Texas to your new home? You take them back to their original goal. In the third step, you overcome that objection, and this is where you explain the contrast of the syndicating to Zillow and Redfin and Realtor.com and Homes.com and all those websites, and why listing will get you out there because of what Zillow and Redfin are doing, and maybe Homes.com might do it soon, and maybe Realtor.com might do it soon. All those listings that other broker has will not be syndicated out to all those other buyers out there. And again, more exposure leads to more buyers, more competition, and ultimately higher offers. And then the 4th step, close. So why don't we just do the right thing so I can get you to New York in time. Let's sign the listing here, press hard, 3 copies, and I'll get busy selling your home. That was a joke if you've been in the business long enough. Press hard, 3 copies. 3 copies. Okay, next one. Any questions about this one? Perfect.
I have just one quick one.
Yes.
EXT is on social media saying, we believe in seller's choice accompanied by seller truth.
Yes.
So we would just agree with them and say, right? Unless they're just posturing because they're not going to be.
Everybody's posturing. That's why every day it changes.
Got it.
Yeah. It's interesting to see because about 7 years ago, it was Gary Keller on stage was advocating your listings, your leads. In other words, if you're the listing agent, it's your leads to get more business, to get more buyers. That originally was what Rifkin's idea was. Now he's switched, and he's actually following what Gary said 7 years ago, and we're farther ahead saying we want more exposure. So Rifkin is learning the industry because he's relatively young as a real estate leader, but he switched his argument from what he did 7 years ago when he initially tried to break CCP.
So, I'm a little confused. If realtors, Redfin, Julia's, and Homes are doing that, where they kept everything in within, why can't KW do it? I know, even though we have different broker, we're still under the same umbrella, right?
Yeah, different broker.
Nation, no? Or structure.
No, we're not.
We're all individually owned and operated, so we're not in the same business structure.
So
we can't do the same.
So Compass is better?
Oh,
I thought you said that. You relax.
No, but I actually think I'm better than Compass because I can publicly market as well. I've built my network of one-on-one relationships with agents.
Where did you learn this objection?
And I actually go and do one-to-one marketing to all the top buyers agents. So you actually are getting my own exclusive network of me, which is all the top people in San Diego. Plus you're getting all the public guys.
This is great.
So I'm afraid, Kelly, I haven't explained the benefit of the wider exposure of your listings compared to a closed, they're called VOWs, virtual office website,
Right.
where you're only showing it to the agents within that company. Have I not explained that well enough? Because I want to make sure I explain that well enough.
Well, I mean, why would Congress would do such a thing? It's just like, it just goes, I mean, they're trying to double end it, I get it, but, you know what I mean?
Lots of carrot.
Well, it's marketing language, right?
Exactly. So you put your own little, name it whatever you want, that sounds, put a little bow on it.
It feels boutique and luxury.
Yeah,
that's
true. Totally, and when I lost my listing, I didn't know about it, so I had talked to them, because there was a tenant in place, about the possibility of bringing them a buyer off market, and they were open to that, and then when the other person got the listing, they said, oh, because they have this client private network, blah, 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 and they were already sold on it. She led with that. I didn't lead with it. So anyway, it's different ways to navigate it.
So the new open house advisory that just came out a couple weeks ago from Carr about the do's and the don'ts at an open house. I won't go through that in detail, but that's new about what you can and cannot say to a buyer that's unrepresented at an open house if they don't want to sign anything. Let's talk about the non-contingent offer advisory first. No need to. So the NCOA is a form in zip forms that you need to incorporate into the purchase agreement if you have a buyer that wants to make an offer without a contingency in place for certain things like loan, appraisal, inspection, HOA docs, etc. What Mark is seeing, a number of compliance checks. The NCOA is being presented and delivered after the contract's been accepted. Why is that a
So even though it's
risk?
in the RPA, you have to do the additional form?
Why is that important? Why would you want to advise a buyer, hey, you want to buy this house, but you're telling me you don't want to inspect it? And we'll write that offer that way, but you're agreeing not to inspect it.
Because then they're stuck if they find something egregious to the house. They have no recourse to back out or to renegotiate.
What is their recourse?
Sue us.
Exactly.
Sue you. This was the biggest concern I had during the post-COVID rush and every other broker because all these offers were being presented without contingencies. loan appraisal, appraisal waiver, all this. Because we know 2 years after, we're going to end up in lawsuits, and we did. A lot of brokers did. That's why Carr developed the NCOA. So if you're writing an offer, just remember that if you do want to waive any contingency, that you have a discussion with that buyer about the implications about what that means, especially if it comes to anything that's inspection related. Because if it's inspection related, those are 90% of the claims that we have, because a buyer will say, well, I didn't know that, and your agent didn't tell me, and I didn't inspect the property, so I didn't know that. So you're in trouble, so I'm going to sue you. And you're in my office, in Nancy's office, writing a $10,000 check for your Erie no deductible, and you're not a happy camper. So that's why I'm just trying to prevent that.
Unless you use Crest Republic, right?
Crest Republic.
Well, if you follow 4 other things, it has to use standard forms, have to have an inspection, you have to have a CREST policy and you need an NHD report. Contingent removal. So this has popped up lately too. When people remove contingencies and they put the deposit at risk, are you having a consultation with your buyer at that point about what removing that contingency means?
Yes.
Yes, of course.
Good. John, you brought this up a couple weeks
I
ago.
brought it up because I thought people don't talk about this enough. It can be, especially on any transaction, it's a pretty pivotal point in the deal. And it's the point at which the buyer is exposed to the most possible financial loss. So I think it's important to touch on.
And by the way, do you ever make a promise that they can get their deposit back, ever?
Never.
Good. I'm seeing enough people say no. What do you say?
Most likely, what you could say most likely. Usually if it falls through, in most cases, you get it back, but sometimes people don't get it back.
I say this is America and people can sue anybody for anything, but so can I guarantee you're gonna get it back 100%? No, my broker won't let me say that, but is there a 99.999% chance you will? Yes. Now, even if you have a contingency in place and you choose to cancel the contract, could the seller go nuts and decide to take you to mediation and then arbitration over part of or all of your deposit? Yes. I can't control that.
Who's been in a transaction in some room where the seller refused to release the deposit?
How about the buyer refused to when they should have? Year and a half.
Anybody want to share?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I'll share. Turns out that the property was not going to have a non-mortgage loan was the only way that they could get financed because of the scaffolding. And we had already removed contingency on the best advice of the lender. And the lender, Renee, at the end of the story, 3 days before we were supposed to close, the loan didn't come through, and the buyer was not willing to take a non-warranted loan. And they could not get their money back because the seller's agent said, oh, but we offered you another loan.
Were you stressed out about that during
I'm
that
still
period?
stressed out about it.
Were you on the phone crying with me? I don't understand.
I'm sure it was.
Yeah, you were.
I'm sure it was, and it still.
And I mean this in all fun.
It still bothers me today.
It does.
Because the fact that my client could not learn what he needed to learn about what he could do instead. And he just was ready to walk away, losing over $8,000 on his deposit.
By the way, a loan contingency removal is still not 100%. Because like in Judy's case, that lender still didn't approve the loan even though they approved it. Do you know a contingency is not good until it actually funds and closes?
At you remember mine in COVID.
Yeah.
The lender, at the beginning of COVID, and we were 4 days from the close of escrow, and the lender pulled the loan because it was asset-based. And we were going into a pandemic, so that was, yeah.
And how fun was that with that seller?
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Mediation, they ended up splitting it, but then they weren't even, I lost the listing, they went with somebody else after,
Yeah. John, did you raise your hand?
Yes, on the loan contingency, it's also not the lender's, we turn to the lender to ask him, where's the loan at right now? Are we in a safe, would you say we're in a safe spot? Are there any conditions that you could see that could prevent this from closing and that sort of thing? But it's not the lender's call whether or not you remove those contingencies. You consult with them, we all do, but at the end of the day, you have to take what the lender says, have a conversation with the buyer, and decide from there whether it's safe to. You're not going back, the lender might lose your business if they say yes and then it doesn't go through, but it's not the lender's contingency.
Unfortunately, we have no lender in the room today. I never trust the lender. Until it's Ed all the time. Okay. Broker advisory. I put a new advisory together for non-refundable deposit. Who has ever written in a purchase agreement or been countered by a listing agent that the buyer's deposit will be non-refundable?
Yeah. No part of it, yeah.
Okay. Just so you know, that is unenforceable in the state of California. There is case law. Why? Making a buyer's deposit non-refundable basically stipulates that the seller would have to prove economic damages. Now, in an increasing market, if that seller was to put that home back on the market and sell it for more money, would there be economic suffering on the part of the seller?
No.
That was the case that went through the courts, and that's where it appeared that that you cannot make a deposit non-refundable. Now, if you get it, what do?
Counter it.
So, yeah, what if they counter it to you, and since you know it's not enforceable, you're just like, okay. You're like, sure, I'll sign this, but because it's not gonna be enforceable. That's what I tell my buyer anyway. But isn't it fine to sign then?
Who wants to go to court?
Yeah, you still. I can contradict that because I talked to Carmichael about that because I put that in every one of my counters. So it's a certain point, a percentage of the deposit becomes non-refundable and goes hard with the sellers. So technically, in the beginning, you're right. In the contract, it states that's not legal because of the bindery. But if you put it in the counteroffer and both parties agree and sign to it, Carmichael states that it is binding.
Well, they put out an advisory that it's not. Whoever you spoke to at CAR, you'll always get a different answer. When you get transferred back to a CAR attorney, it's not an attorney at CAR, it's someone they contract out to. And I've gotten different answers from CAR attorneys.
It's on the last one, I understand we called on that one.
Yeah.
We did go hard and everything was fine, but yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, it is unenforceable. Now, if you release a deposit to the seller in escrow, is that enforceable?
Yes.
Yes, but if liquidated damages provisions still prevailed, the challenge is getting that deposit back from the seller. Where do you go to get that deposit back? Mediation, or you go to small claims court, which the buyer probably could prevail, but they have to go to the small claims court proceedings to do all that and then attempt to collect. So this is all the stuff I explain to you guys when you call me because you want the golden, the good answer, and I give you the good, the bad, and the ugly. Okay. Okay. This one you can open up. So I put this new advisory together because here's what happens when you have a seller that wants to stay in a property after close of escrow. If they want to stay less than 29 days, what form do you use?
SIP.
The SIP. If they want to stay less than 60 days and more than 30, what form do you use? Okay, and then how do you guide your buyer? When a seller wants to stay in, it's important that you start guiding them, and this advisory walks them through it. Basically, it tells them, here's the good, the bad, and the ugly about if you allow the seller to stay in the property after close of escrow. Now, the SIP is not a lease, it's a license. And because it's a license, it carries a little bit different weight, so it doesn't fall under full landlord-tenant rules in the state of California. So if the buyer had to evict that seller, it'll be a little bit easier process. But the RLAS is a lease, and if that seller stayed in that property longer than they're supposed to, then they would have to go through formal eviction proceedings. Does anybody know how hard it is for a landlord to operate in the state of California in today's world? Okay. So it's important that when you are having a buyer that are letting the seller stay over, that you guide them properly. So here's what happens a lot. This is usually what I get the call for. I had one 2 weeks ago. The seller stayed in for 14 days. There was supposed to be a security deposit. Escrow missed it. So that wasn't withheld. And so now this buyer has a claim against the escrow company. And the seller left the place a mess. My agent wants to make it good and help that buyer. But what is my guidance on that? Once escrow closes, what happens? Agency stops. You are no longer allowed to help that buyer in that transaction with that seller that overstayed, because that buyer is now what? A landlord in the state of California. What is that seller? A tenant in the state of California. Who has more rights? The tenant. So this seller actually left it a mess and moved out, and the buyer's mad. So they call the agent. The deposit wasn't held by escrow, so there's no $1,500 for them to recapture. What do we do? Well, I gave everything in this handout exactly what the agent, and then a day later they call me. They're still calling me. What do I do? I'm like, you can be very careful about what you do. You just need to guide them. And if they want to go after that seller in small claims court, they're allowed to do that. But what I would do is maybe reach out to the listing agent, see if you all can come up with something together. But your hands are kind of tied at that point. That's why if you represent a buyer with an RLAS or SIP, it's very pivotal that you have that conversation with them about what that means up front, so they're prepared. Does that make sense? So this new broker advisory will be in the documents that we emailed out. It explains what an RLAS is, explains what a SIP is, explains why it matters, and then what they can and cannot do as a buyer. And by the way, if you represent the buyer with an RLAS or SIP, make sure you arrange for keys on the day of the close of escrow, because it's written in the contract that the buyer gets keys because they're now the owner of the property. Many times agents will not have the buyer get keys, and then we end up in a kind of a mess after that too. But make sure you arrange in advance with the listing agent to pick those keys up front, because 9 times out of 10, the listing agent doesn't know the rule of the RPA, and they'll say, well, no, the seller wants to keep the keys until the buyer moves in, which is a no-no. It's in the contract. Read the contract. You have to educate the listing agents on the other side too, unfortunately. And then I have a broker recommendation on there, and it basically talks about post-COVID rules and the increase in landlord-tenant laws in the state of California, and why it's important that we disclose this to them up front. You will have a lot less headaches after close of escrow when you have a buyer that has a seller that's in the property still, if you counsel them up front. Okay?
So you recommend like at least an escrow holdback?
Always.
And then making sure escrow actually did it?
Always.
And then I had like a per diem also if they stay after, not that they can collect that, but like if they ever have to go to court, why not, right?
Yeah, always. What's a per diem in?
My escrow didn't hold the deposit, and then the seller sold the washer. And we had it at final walkthrough, but then it wasn't there after they left. They were there for two weeks after the close of escrow, and the escrow bought the washer for my client.
Oh, that's nice of the escrow.
Yeah, because they were like, it's our mistake, and they didn't want to get into the whatever, because my buyer was going for escrow, because they were supposed to hold the deposit. And the guy was like, no, I'm just going to get you a new washer, that's okay, and then that's how they sell it.
Good.
Yeah.
Go back. So this popped up thanks to Bridget a couple weeks ago. She had on one of her listings a sign call from a buyer that wanted to see the property. And she called me and says, I just wanted to make sure I'm following the right rules. Can I show the property? So I put another advisory together. If you're a listing agent that gets a sign call from a buyer that's unrepresented by another agent, what are the do's and the don'ts? As the agent for the owner, you as the listing agent can show the property to an unrepresented buyer, but you got to be really careful what you say. As they're asking you questions about the house, you're always reminding them politely that, just so you know, I represent the seller, I represent the seller, I represent the seller. You're reminding them that. Because you don't want to cross over to what we call implied agency, where you start talking to them about other stuff, about have they got pre-approved, what else are they looking for? Then you're starting to talk about other properties in the neighborhood. Okay? So another advisory, and then last one. This happened, as I said 5 times, MLS violation. Just so you know, for the new agents in the room, when you put a listing in the MLS, you have to have at least one picture of the subject property. Just one picture of the subject property. And all other pictures have to be of the subject property. So it can be an aerial view, it can be a view from the front deck, views of the kitchen, the backyard. Can it be a view if the house is not located but by the trolley sign in University Heights? Yeah.
How about the swimming pool?
It could be the swimming pool, yes, of the subject property.
Okay.
That includes HOA if it's in a condo association, right? So you can't put neighborhood shots. Has anybody seen in the MLS?
Yes.
Agents put that. Well, there's this little report button. You can report anonymously because we all want to make the industry better, don't we? And if you're following the rules, why shouldn't they? They'll eventually get reported. But I love seeing shit like that because I'll click on and report. Not you guys. I will call you and say, take that shit off. The other thing that I'm seeing is you can't take a picture of the front of the house if there's a sign in the front yard for sale. So one of my agents got tagged for that. And then there's a new company out there that's doing floor plans, and they're putting their website in the picture. And they're getting tagged for that too. You can't have any identifier of a company in the floor plans.
So you mean a sign that's not yours?
No,
You mean a sign for the
he
property.
means blur out your for sale sign.
Blur out your for sale sign.
We don't want you marketing on the syndicated websites, so no phone numbers.
That's been around for decades.
Well, of course it has. Do agents do it? No, not all the time. And you can't put open house in public remarks. You'll get tagged for that too. Now, I can tell you that the MLSs are using AI to capture some of these pictures.
Wow.
And then send you a notice automatically.
Yeah. Nice.
And then they get the fine the next day. You got a fine, but you got that taken care of.
I didn't get a fine. I got notice that there was a picture or something was wrong with it. I went, I'm looking at it, and then it ended up being the map of the park of this place, and it had actually it was. So you didn't tell me it was 2, but the Cubicasi, the one that does the floor plan, where it had that. I thought, oh, what was that? So I fixed that, and I said, oh, I think I'm good. Yes, I good. And then she came back and said, no, there's. And I was like, I don't see it. I don't know, you know. And so it had the telephone number of the park office, even though it's, you know, this house is in a park that's, you know, and I've got the picture that shows where 120 is in the park. It said the Little Vista and had the telephone number, and so I had to take that off and get rid of the telephone number.
So the quick way to fix it is
But no fine.
email rules at SDMLS or rules at COMLS. They're really quick at getting back to you, saying, I got this. Can you tell me exactly what you're talking about? Because AI is scrubbing this, and sometimes AI is not 100% accurate.
Can't they AI from Walkable and start getting that out of there?
Also, you do know that
Listings.
you can't harvest pictures of a listing you represented the buyer and then spread it all over social media, right? Out of the MLS.
Yes.
Wait, so
You represented a buyer on a listing,
it's not your photos.
not your photos. Well, I want to make sure everybody knows that you can't use photos in MLS, but also a warning too, you can't use photos that are trademarked. Because our wonderful Vinny got caught a few years ago, and it took a while to get out of it.
Well, it was technically someone I hired them to.
Yeah, he didn't do it. But he used a copyrighted photo on his blog. So make sure if you guys are doing social media posts that you're using royalty-free photos, because there's a cottage industry of lawyers going after real estate agents, because we're an easy target, that will want to send you and it was a $5,000 bill. Like the cost of defending versus the cost of paying was, yeah. Oh, was it? Okay.
So in the past, we've emailed the listing agent if they're the ones that paid for the photos and asked for the actual original.
In writing, if they're allowed to
Yeah.
use it. Even the photographers, in the handout, you'll see an email from a photographer to a buyer's agent on a friend of mine's listing that was nailed. And he sent a really nasty email to this buyer's agent that, look, pay up or I'm going to just turn you into the MLS. The fine is like $1,000.
But that buyer's agent hadn't asked the listing agent for permission? Okay.
And it was the actual photographer that caught it, not the...
And to be clear, is it, if the listing agent pays for those photos, is it them that gives the permission or does the photographer need to be a part of that?
Ask your photographer just to be safe. In this case, this photographer owned the rights to it for some reason, I don't know, but he really put the Jesus scare in that one agent.
My favorite is when you ask someone from like 5 years ago for their HOA photos or something and they ask you for hundreds of dollars for it.
Yeah. And then one more, Ari? Okay. You guys have been a great group. I hope we got through a lot. Did you learn something today?
Yes. Thank you.
And what do you do when you get an email from me? Don't take offense. You're free.